Welcome back to the Automate Construction Podcast. I'm joined today by Nick Holden, CEO of Contour 3D in Australia, innovating construction technology with 3D printed mortars, their own printer. They didn't buy one, they built it themselves. Nick, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thanks, Jarrett.
Yeah, so I want to ask, when you first started this company, did you consider buying a printer or did you immediately know you wanted to build your own?
Look, that's a good question. Initially, I did contact all the major players back in sort of 2019 when I started looking at this, from the robotic printers all the way through to the large sort of gantry style ones. But look, after talking to them, and obviously being in Australia, which is quite remote for shipping, and the exchange rate isn't kind to us at the moment against the euro or the US dollar, look, we did decide to build our own printer. And to be honest, that's sort of my background and some of the guys I have working for me. We are builders. We do our own electrics and all the associated components. So we took it on to build a printer. Initially, we built a very small one, which was say 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, 4 foot high, so to speak. And we got some very good results on that. So that sort of gave us a confidence then to go forth and build a larger style printer. And it's obviously a challenge. There's that many different methodologies out there and that many different printers and that many different ideas. So what road do you go down? So that probably took us a good couple of months to determine what we wanted to do. And then obviously we had to get a control system to run that particular printer as well, which was another consideration because we weren't at the stage of understanding the technology enough to build our own control system and what was required. So at that stage, we did repurpose a CNC control system that was running a 9-axis lathe, for example. So that was a challenge within itself, but look, you just got to keep going, right? Don't give up.
Yeah, and so you guys basically from scratch developed your own 8 foot by 10 foot system, you said, and that's not so small. A lot of groups start with like 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter.
No, it wasn't quite that large. It was a little bit. It was a little bit smaller. It was 2.4 meters long, 8 foot. It was 1.2 meters wide, and it would print up to 1.2 meters high. And that was a very small gantry system that we sort of knocked together out of steel components at the time. And then after the success we had on that, and we used that machine obviously to practice with the material, the pumping methodology, the control systems, and just getting the small components right and the buildability. And once we did that, then that sort of did give us the confidence then to go forward. And then we did build a larger printer, which we have used to obviously construct or print our first large structure, and which is currently printing our second structure at the moment, local to the factory. But the second printer was 20 meters long in its tracks. It was 3.3 meters high, and it was around about 9 meters wide in its span. And we particularly developed that one because we knew we had a particular job coming up, which was for a TV show over here called The Block. One of the highest rating, or it is the highest rating renovation show over here. They get sort of 1.2 million views per episode per week, which was obviously amazing exposure for us. So we constructed that printer particularly for that job. And then off we went. We obviously madly testing in the factory the materials and the buildabilities, and we did print some very, very large structures inside the factory, which in turn we obviously demolished and crushed back up into dust. But that was a very challenging process, as all your all your followers would know that have been down this road. At the moment, there's people giving out information, which is very nice of them to a point, and I do watch all your videos, so thank you very much. I've obviously learned a hell of a lot off watching what other people do, but at the end of the day, there's no real instruction book. So we genuinely had to make everything up ourselves. We were here till midnight, on many occasions, printing, having things collapse. And that was literally weeks before we were heading off to pack the machine up and head off to print this 70 square meter structure, 3 meters high, on national television. It was pre-recorded, but that was in Victoria, which is a good sort of 12 hours drive from where we are located up in Sydney, Australia. So literally the week or a couple of days before, they rang and said, right, you ready? And I said, yes. And I went down to the guys in the factory and we're like, right, we're doing this. And they're like, we're not ready. And I'm like, we're doing it. The day before we packed up the machine, put it in a truck, and we drove it down there, and off we went.
Did you have it fully assembled before you packed it up?
We did. Yeah, we were printing with it the day before in the factory. And
Yeah, so what's the takedown process like?
well, that's a good question, because this particular machine was never meant to leave the factory. This was initial. We did it, as I said earlier, we extended the axes to print this particular structure when we knew. But when we first built this machine, it was never meant to leave the factory. And we built this during COVID, so we couldn't get motors, we couldn't get control systems. Raw materials were quite hard to source, so we literally built it out of steel SHSs. You know, we're all welders here and machine guys and machinists, so we hacked this thing together. We were putting additional braces on it on the fly to sort of stop wobble and travel, and we put a hell of a lot of work into the CNC controller to really sort of smooth out the motors and the algorithms and the servo motors. So, look, it was, your question on takedown, it was not great because it was never meant to be taken down and put back up. All the control systems were hardwired. We didn't have plugs on them, so we literally had to, I'm not going to say cut the wires, but we pulled wires out of plugs and connectors, put them all on pallets, strapped it all up. We rented a semi-truck.
You updated them.
It was horrendous. We rented it. We rented a big truck. We put it on the truck and we went down there. Fortunately, it took us a day to set up on site, which was pretty good. When we got down there, and the site was prepared. I'd already been down there. We'd spoken to the guys and the builders down there. So they knew what was required, but we had to operate off generators, so therefore we had to have emergency backup power supply units and a lot of stuff we hadn't planned on. And then once we got the machine operating, probably the next day after we got there, after we set up, then we were getting errors in the system. You know, we were getting electrical errors, we were getting codes. And obviously, being hardwired, we were just battling to find out where these problems were coming from. And we ended up running new wires for certain sensors which weren't operating. We got that working. We were running some of our control system off iPads and remote Wi-Fi, which we had set up. But they were building on site there. They were building 6 dwellings on sites, big projects, huge. You know, this construction project, they must have had 500 or 600 people on site at any one time. This thing was massive. So the electrical interference, there was excavators, there was all sorts of machinery, cranes operating. So therefore, then the iPad was kept dropping out. You know, we were getting interference in the Wi-Fi signals. The camera crew were using the same channels, and it was challenging. So therefore, we had to sort of hardwire all the safety systems as well, and the iPad control. And we eventually got there, and it was a little bit like the duck under the water. No one was sort of seeing anything. We had tents set up. We were in the background working feverishly to overcome the issues we were having.
But certainly, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there. You're dealing with the hardware issues, and then also you're printing outside for the first time as opposed to in the factory, which introduces a host of new challenges. I want to ask about all that stuff, but I also am curious, the 12-hour transport went off without a hitch?
Yeah, it did.
Just went smooth?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we were driving the truck ourselves, and then we were sort of a convoy of cars behind the truck. But that was fine. You know, we're very good at, I've got another business in the composite building industry, so we're very familiar with transportation of sensitive materials and machinery and packaging up. No, so that was fine. When we got to site, all the machinery that we required for the offload and the assembly was there for us, waiting.
The crane?
Which was supplied by the Holdens and the TV company. So look, they were there to help us. They didn't want us to fail. Or maybe they did. That's part of a reality TV show, right? But it was our mission not to fail, because
maybe struggle and then succeed.
We definitely struggled, and they caught that on camera, and then we eventually did succeed. But as you could imagine, with that many people on site, and there was contestants, and there was TV crews and cameras, we had a literal cast of thousands watching us, because we were obviously the buzz of the block, the buzz of the TV show. You know, because normal construction had been going on for quite a while. But something different comes in, you know, something sort of new age, cutting edge. So we had many, many people just lined up behind, you know, barriers watching us. And we might get to this later, but the first day when we started printing, it was always like, they go, when are you starting? Like, it's an hour. And they'd eventually walk up and go, another hour? I'm like, yep. No, we just kept having little niggly problems. But and they actually set up a couch outside. The contestants sat down, they had popcorn, they were watching us, the TV cameras were there, everyone had a microphone on, so they were capturing every swear word, every thing you threw, you know.
I'm sorry for not knowing about the show so much, but when you say contestants, are you competing with them?
No, we weren't. This was a little bit different. So the show runs over 12 weeks, and they come to site. They've got the skeleton of a house, and they generally work 15 hours a day, 6 days a week to sort of finish these houses. And then at the end of the competition, they auction the houses off, and then obviously they get some prize money and some, you know, whatever they make out of the house. And if they do a good job, they'll get more money because the auction result will be higher. So it is really it's a very fast-paced show. You know, they break the contestants, they really do. So the mentality is it's just get it done. You know, that there's no hanging around, there's no sort of thinking about anything. So we were very fortunate that as part of the show, they were also the host of the show this year was doing a house as well, with the help of builders and so forth. So we actually constructed a dwelling for the host of the show as part of his main house.
Wow. So how many building projects have you done so far?
We've done 2 major ones. We've obviously done a lot of testing and hundreds of tons, or maybe not, lots of tons through the factory. That was our first major one, which was 70 square meters, 3 meters high. And as you mentioned before, it was outdoors. There was a lot going on. And at that time of year in Victoria, we did it in winter. And I know a lot of people think Australia doesn't get cold, but this was in Mount Macedon in regional Victoria. So it was in the middle of the cold country. You know, it was in a hollow of a mountain. So we were printing during the days. It could get up to 20, 25 degrees Celsius, which is fine. That's okay. But it was super windy, which was a challenge, which we'd never experienced before being in a factory environment. But then on an evening, the temperature would drop really quickly to almost zero. So one night the printer was going so well, it was running from lunchtime all day. We had the material, everything was working. You meant to finish work at 6 o'clock or something because there's neighbours. They were remote, but there was neighbours. But we sort of asked the question. The guy said, yep, if you get a complaint, you've got to stop. But we pushed through. We were printing till possibly 1 a.m. in the morning, 1:30. And we were keeping going. We would have gone through till daylight. But at that point, one of the guys goes, it's raining. You know, and I stepped outside the tent and I was like, that ain't rain. It was starting to sleet and snow on us. So at that point, we obviously packed up for the day, went home and came back at lunchtime the next day. So it was challenging.
And the film crew was there with you?
What's that, sorry?
The film crew was there with you?
No, not until that time, but they did leave GoPro cameras all over the machine and the sites. So
I got to stay in person for that moment.
Yeah. So that was fun. Look, and it was a baptism of fire, obviously being outdoors and under those challenging circumstances. And
it's really crazy that you were willing to let them film your first print. There's groups that I ask to film their first print and they don't let me because they're not comfortable with the equipment yet. They want to learn how it works. They don't want to make a mistake on camera. And I'm just one guy with my own equipment. I try not to get in their way at all. You had a whole camera crew in 4K, 8K probably.
Yep. Yeah, and that was pretty crazy. And look, that stuff doesn't bother me. I'm a very methodical person, but I've got an element of I'll fly by the seat of my pants to
Sure.
get results and I'll just keep going and I won't give up. And that can be
big risk, big reward, I guess. What do you think the result was of getting that media attention?
Oh, I mean, it was phenomenal. The inbound inquiry we had and the credibility that I wouldn't say buys you, but that gains you, just almost can't be bought. I mean, the exposure that we got there for just about nothing. You know what I mean? Yes, we paid for the materials and they paid for the TV time, but that TV time's worth about $10,000 a second, you know, what they charge out at for prime time exposure. So we got a hell of a lot of inquiry afterwards. We obviously got some inquiry you don't want. You get the mums and dads at this stage going, oh, can you build me a house? You know, all the individuals, and we're not at that stage, and we haven't determined the final business model around that yet. But we got a lot of inquiry as well from the bigger end of town, like the major developers within Australia or the major construction companies. That more than anything, I suppose they don't want to miss the boat or they don't want to miss out on something. And because we were then portrayed on the TV, which we built the first structure in this area, outdoors. We had a jump on that, and we did a very good job. And I think I've said to you before, and you've seen some of the videos from site, the print resolution that we were getting in the factory and on site was absolutely world class. And the accuracy, and from an R&D machine that was built out of bits of steel and servo motors that we literally borrowed because we couldn't get any in time, and control systems that weren't designed for that, whether it's through good luck, good measure, or just dogged persistence, we absolutely got there. And to some degree, on TV, I was almost embarrassed by the look of the printer. We had all these visions of skinning it, making it look super high-tech and robot-like, sort of iconish. But with the time constraints and then pushing, we didn't have time to do any of that. So we turned up, we did it. It was challenging, but the end result was absolutely beyond our expectations.
That outside, it's just a plastic garnish, not important.
That's right. But as you know, TV is all about glitz and glamour to a certain degree. So we certainly didn't have any of the glitz and glamour, apart from the important stuff, the layer quality that we were putting down, the building that was designed by a very high-end architect, Julian Brenchley in Australia. So we got it done, and it was one of those things where we worked that hard, to get that done, to bring the machinery down there, to get it working. I think the second we walked all off site, I think we all slept for a week. Literally, I said to the guys in the factory when we left, I said, I don't want to see you for at least 3 days.
Did any hoses burst?
No, nothing. No, nothing. So that was really fortunate. And they didn't even we didn't have our own power in that application. So they got us a 3-phase generator, which was super reliable until the day we absolutely needed it. This thing had ran for months on site, and then it broke down. So on a Sunday, we had to go and then source a secondary generator. So we had our problems and we had our struggles, but the result was excellent.
Yeah, and the mixer pump system that you used, how did you sort that out?
Well, initially we did start with our own mixer pump system. We built one, which we've still got here, which works very well. But to tie this into something else, we do also have a 6-axis robot here on a linear track, which we're doing some factory printing with and development work. So to run that, we actually bought an MAI machine. We ended up taking the MAI machine to site, and that was just faultless. We had to run off IBCs of water, because they didn't have running water for us in that particular location either. But it worked. It just was absolutely a workhorse. It was faultless.
That's great. I really never hear that.
Yeah,
so it's
absolutely
nice.
Faultless. And when I approached those guys and said, look, we're building a house with this thing. It's 70 square meters. It's big. And they said, look, we haven't had any customers that have done that before. So again, you're sort of flying by the seat of your pants and right, fine, we'll make it up. And we did.
I wonder if it's the same product I had seen last. I saw their system at Vertigo almost 2 years ago.
It is. I know Volca. It is exactly the same as Volca's machine.
Wow.
The Multimix 3. Nice. It was phenomenal. Yep.
Good to hear. So you're working out your business plan now. I guess this time of year, December, entering the new year, people are always figuring stuff out, especially you having completed such a big project. Now the world's your oyster.
Sure.
Is there any light you can shed on what things you're considering without giving too much away?
No. I don't mind giving it all away. So I really appreciate what you've given me in the past from watching your videos, and I understand what that gives back to other people. And I'm not someone to give absolute finite IP, but the general overviews, that really helped me listening to other people. And to go back to that, when we started, and we've not been, stealth mode is the wrong word, but we'd just been operating on our own. I rented a small factory to develop the machinery. We're working with the University of New South Wales to develop the mix. But that's, and with my other business, and I have I've sort of tapered off my other business a little bit now to concentrate 80% of my time on 3D. We've got a team of 8 people here at the moment. We hope to expand that to sort of 20 next year as the machinery and the business model evolves. But what I have been doing is I've been inviting key people, I suppose, and key organisations to the structure that we printed down in Victoria for the block, to come and have a look at it. Like the big housing developers, the major construction companies, and that sort of goes towards what is our eventual business model. But at the moment, I was very fortunate enough to be able to self-fund it to this point, and probably a little bit further. So that bought us a little bit of time in not rushing into taking on projects which probably weren't ideal. Like your mums and dads that want a house in the middle of nowhere, just a one-off house, which is where I don't think you can really make a lot of money, doing that sort of thing. But if it's not about the money in the first iteration of the business model, we want to get it right, to a large degree. But as you say, we're getting it right. If that's on the fly, if it's in the factory, whatever, but we just want to gain experience. I think I want to get another 5 or 6 major size structures on the ground outdoors, and then within that period then we'll determine what the business model is, whether that is we set up a construction arm and we do print houses, but then again maybe I don't want to print one-offs. It's sort of like the we don't get out of bed for less than 10 houses or something on a particular site, so you can gain the efficiencies and you can gain the just the volume efficiencies that come with that. So we've got one control system operating, 2 machines, and we have 2 people just monitoring between 2 houses. That sounds something that's sort of would be attractive. I deal with the general public in my other business, and I hate them. I am one of them, I'm sure, many times in other situations, but whether then there is obviously a market for that general building and public, whether we license machinery or we franchise that model out, I'm not sure yet. But I do, with the robot that we do have, the 6-axis robot, we do have 7-axis, I suppose, with the track in the factory. I do want to start commercially printing some elements, sausages, I suppose, for the civil industry, for flower pots, for columns, and so there's that end of the business. But I've got some very clever people that are working here as well with me. So we are developing a scale model of a more mobile machine at the moment. We are getting a lot of inquiry for, say, council elements and government elements, which are amenities blocks, toilet blocks, little things in parks where it's not viable, right? You either precast them and you take them to site and you hire them in position, or you take a mobile machine out. Sure, you've got to re-reference it 2 or 3 times, but then you're done, you're packed up and you're gone. So I hope that answered the question, but I'm not sold on a particular business model at the moment. And a lot of people do ask me, well, how are you going to make money out of this? And that's being in a semi-fortunate position. I said, well, I haven't worked that out yet. What I mean? I'm confident I can, and I'm confident I will, but it's still work in progress.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think any of those routes will require more printers ultimately. And so now, from my perspective, it seems you're boiling down what you want those more printers to be. Perhaps there's some changes you want to make from your current model.
Yeah, I think so. So we are constructing, say, the second dwelling we are printing at the moment, which is close to the factory, which is one that we took on actually before we went down to Victoria to print for the TV show. But then obviously with that opportunity, I kept punting them back, which eventually we punted them back about 6 months, which they weren't overly happy with. But we're on site now. We've printed that particular dwelling. The guys are just sort of tidying up the site today. I can't even remember the question now. There you go.
Just about...
different models of printer. Yeah.
Upgrade.
So this is the last job that the R&D printer will do. So we are constructing, and if anyone goes to our website, contour3d.com.au, you will see the second generation of printer, which is still a gantry printer, but it's all aluminium, very lightweight, very componentized, if that's a word, in little sections. So we can just take that in with a standard forklift, assemble it. Our goal is an assembly within 4 hours. And that will, at the moment, we've constructed 25 metres worth of tracks. It's 14 metres wide, and at the moment it's 3.4 metres high. But when we have got additional modules to go up to a second story to go to 6.4 metres. So that machine, the framework for that is all constructed. We've started on the electrical cabinet and the wiring this week. But unfortunately, I don't have a site crew at the moment either. So I've got some of my mechatronics engineers and electrical engineers literally on site printing the current dwelling. So look, we will have that completed and operating in the factory by the end of this year. So to go back to your other question, I think there is a market for, and it depends on your business model, but I think with our potential business model, there is a market for a gantry system. There is a market for a mobile machine, and there is obviously a market for an in-house printer. So whether we're taking on too much, that is yet to be determined, right? But we're always ones just to keep going, get it done, and get it to a level where it's phase one. You know what I mean? I am very quality focused when it comes to the print resolution. That's not even a customer-driven thing or a market-driven thing. I think that's more a me-driven thing. That's what keeps me awake at night. So we will absolutely get there with that. But I think by probably March next year, we will have a working model of the mobile machine, which will be a phase one, and then we'll sort of do some trials with that. But back to building our own machinery, and I've got some very high-end software developers starting next year, and I've got a couple on staff at the moment. And talking about buying machinery, Australia being so remote, we do struggle with lead times for servo motors, for control systems, for componentry. So I want to eliminate all that. I want to build all our in-house control systems. I want to build all our in-house machinery with readily available servo motors. So then we control our own destiny, to some degree, and then we can absolutely that is a very scalable business model. I mean, people in Australia, and there's lots of people obviously coming into the market, but they don't have the ability to build their own machines. So they're going to struggle with scale. You buy one machine off Cobot, you pay $1 million and you've got to wait 9 months to get it. So then you want another one, and then you repeat the cycle, right? So hopefully the way we're doing it will allow us just to scale up. If I've got to build a machine a week, I've got to build 10 machines a month. That's just mathematics, right? That's just numbers, people, talent.
Yeah, and if people want to go check out your website, the link is in the description of the video as well.
Fantastic.
So the business that you're shifting your attention from, you mentioned in the future you'll be dedicating 80% of your attention to 3D printed construction. What are you shifting from?
No, I currently do. So I've got and my other business is modular innovations. So and predominantly modular walls. So we construct, and same again, we're a full-scale manufacturer. We're not really a builder or an installer. We manufacture composite noise wall panels and very, very high-end fencing, which looks like a masonry wall, but we laminate fibre cement skins to different cores and sound-absorbing panels. And so very familiar with the manufacturing and the economies of scale sense. That business employs 80 people. But I set that up a couple of years ago now. I sacked myself as CEO of that business. I employed a professional CEO. I put on a board of directors. So I want people to make decisions that don't involve me unless someone's died in the car crash. You know what I mean?
Sure. And was that the first business you started?
I've had a few smaller ones before that, but this one, we were the first. We invented that category within Australia. And we do ship quite a bit to the US occasionally, but we tend not to export anymore because the local market is large enough. So look, that business is at a point where it can run itself, and I can spend my time on the 3D side of things.
So that business was, so that I know I understand correctly, prefabricated parts. So you had a factory somewhere and people would manufacture these pieces, which would then be constructed by other teams on site. That's
correct, yeah. Yeah, and we also sell to DIY for high-end masonry look fencing, and to commercial contractors for commercial noise walls on the side of motorways or freeways. So we manufacture everything. here locally in Sydney. I've got my own factory, but we've also got warehouses. We've got 4 warehouses around the country as well, so we do supply them with stock for your landscapers and your fencers and your sort of DIY customer to come and pick up on a weekend or a weekday to construct themselves. So it's a good business. So we've got a commercial arm, which deals in the civil and government side of things, and then we've got a domestic arm, which deals with the fencers, the landscapers, and the mums and dads.
That's really fascinating. Prefab and 3D printed construction have some overlap in the people who are interested in them.
Absolutely.
But I haven't met anybody in 3D printed construction that comes from a prefab background, I don't think.
Yep.
So what was it that made you want to make the switch?
That's a good question. I can never sit still, I suppose. I've been doing this business now, my modular walls, for 19 years, and I've built it up, obviously, as a national business with 80 to 100 staff. And we probably have 4,000 landscapes and fences on our books as well, which rely on us to manufacture the product for them to install, for them to feed their family. So it got to the point where I'm still, my official title there now is Director of Innovation, whatever that means, you know. So I've got an R&D guy, so I just sort of concentrate on the R&D that then he implements. So we still are innovating with that business, but I was bored, if I'm honest. You know, I wanted more. I got to keep moving. You know, I just can't sit still. And I suppose where I was into 3D desktop printing, which I think our story's on our website, and I bought my daughter a 3D desktop printer in 2019 because she needed one for school. And I think she used it 2 or 3 times, and that was it. And then, I sort of progressed from the 3D desktop printing, and I was fortunate that I could draw in 3D prior to that, so I had that skill set, and my coding's not great, but it's not bad. And then that sort of progressed into, well, what else can we do with this, you know, with the 3D technology? Because I look at the 3D desktop printer, and it was, you know, why can't you scale that up? And then I saw some of the videos on YouTube, probably some of your videos as well at that time. And that's where I started contacting the companies overseas that then I saw were doing this, and they were probably slightly in their infancy and, you know, as well, and trying to sell machines to finance their operations, and that's when we took on the decision just to do it. You know, I said, "Come on, I can fund this. Let's have a go." And my
does your first sorry,
huh?
Does your first company have a catalog for 3D printed landscaping parts yet, or?
No, it doesn't, but they will become one of my customers for Contour 3D, definitely. So look, we're pushing with our material to get a recycled component, sort of upwards of 75% in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. Because obviously, like all in the world, there's a huge green push. So we do a lot in the commercial noise wall panel space. So I want to, with the robot printer here, in the next sort of couple of months, develop a 3D printed noise wall panel, which is environmentally friendly, light enough weight to transport, and I think then modular walls will become a very good customer of Contour 3D. So yes,
My understanding,
push them into each other, but I did set them up as 2 separate companies. So
it's my understanding that the parametric design of a wall can have acoustic properties to distort or dampen the noise potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. You get what's called refraction. Obviously, 19 years in the industry, I'm very across that sort of stuff. And that would be very appealing to the urban designers and the government bodies, because we can't at the moment, within modular, we produce very, very, very attractive flat panels, but we can't do parametric design. But if someone wants a dolphin put on the wall, or, you know, this is where the 3D construction printing can really sort of come into its own. And I'm very fortunate then to have the existing contacts within that industry, not to have to go through all the hurdles. You know, we've got a very good reputation within that sector, so I can just go, look, this is what we're doing. Give me a go. You know, I want a mile of noise wall, and this is what we're going to do. So yeah, that will come as well.
Yeah, just like municipalities are poking around looking for printed benches, printed bathrooms, I think people will start to more as well, and specifically ask for printed components in their backyard. Who knows? It's really interesting. So transitioning your old company to a new CEO, a new board, is that like selling a part of your soul, or giving away a kid or something?
Yes, somewhat. It was hard at the start. You know, you've got to let people, and fail is the wrong word, but you've got to let them make their own decisions and say as long as it's not a car crash. But they're at that point now. It's been a few years that they're all very invested. And part of that came with share equity as well within that company. So they are invested in the outcome of that. But yeah, it was tough, you know, and I still get pulled into things, some things I don't want to get pulled into. But I recognise that that has to happen on occasion, right? You know, someone's got to make the final decision, and that's what I sort of stress to my kids: make a decision. You know, just sometimes you just got to make a decision, you know, and don't ponder. You know, if you're confident within yourself, just make the decision. I'll back you.
Yeah, it's a unique type of person that's able to build a business that can operate without them there on a day-to-day basis. Certainly not the majority of founders, I don't think, do that.
And you know what? There was a point where I thought that would never happen. But then you do realise there is some very good and talented people out there, you know, and you got to keep looking. Don't give up. You know, don't give up. You will find them eventually. You know, and we're an innovative business in that side of things, so it's okay to attract that sort of talent. You know, you're not just a sausage manufacturer. They do want to come and work with you, and that
sounds like good advice.
Yeah, and like the US, I mean, we've got a labour shortage here, particularly a construction labour shortage, and just a labour shortage in general. It's very hard to get good people, but with the 3D space, it's such an easy story to sell. You know, and it's not even a sale, you know, because it's true. They can come here, they can see us building the machines, they can see the tech, you know, they can see that we're doing it. We're doing it all in house, you know, and that's very exciting to attract good talent.
Yeah, and I think people have just seen the narrative play over and over and over. Technology enters an industry, changes everything. So maybe that's part of why it's so viral and so magnetic towards people. It's just a paradigm that's played out so many times in other industries.
Yeah, it has, and we've still got I do like to build. I like to make things, you know, and I've got a lot of people that I associate with that they shuffle numbers, right, and that's how they make their money. You know, what do you call them? The bankers and the wankers. But you need those people, right? You do to a point, but I'm not that person. Sure, I can shuffle spreadsheets and numbers and things, but that kills me. I hate sitting at my desk, and unfortunately, that's become a large part of what I do, and I have to do. Right, you know, you've got to steer the ship. But I've got someone to steer the ship now at Modular Walls, which is very nice. But there was a point where I never thought I would escape that. I really didn't. And that's probably given me a different outlook to the Contour 3D business as well. You know, I am looking to bring on, and I've got a few candidates which are interested, some very, very high-end, I wouldn't call them a CEO, but a general manager, I suppose, to run the day-to-day operations very, very competently, in line with the company's core values and mission, you know, and then I can do the stuff which I'm good at. You know, I love being in the factory. I love knowing all the bits and the pieces. If a machine breaks down, let me help. You know, so and the innovation side of things. Like I want to push. I want to build the mobile machine. You know what I mean? I want to do all those little things. And sure, then I've got to sit at night and I've got to do the admin stuff and I've got to sit in front of my computer and my desktop. But I don't know. Maybe it's. So it has made me think differently about this. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set Contour 3D up now from the start so it doesn't need me for the day-to-day stuff. You know, let me build the business. I've got some very, very good government contacts and contracts and, you know, it can afford me the time to do that, you know. But that's when you need good people, right? You need good talent. How do you attract the best talent? And you're right, you've got tech in the building industry, so are we a tech company that builds, or are we a building company that uses tech? You know, it's a good balance in between those two. So
I've heard the term deep tech thrown around a lot, which is just referring to hardware that requires lots of software too, just a whole new technology that needs all different kinds of things combined.
Yep.
I think that applies to you.
Yeah, no, I'd certainly agree with that. And then people turn up on site, as you know, go, wow, this is so simple. And you're like, oh my God, you have just no idea. Yeah. And people, and they come to the factory and they see what we do at Modular, and it's so automated and so easy. It's not, as you know. But you come here and people go, wow, that's so good and that's so easy. And it's just the difficulty and the amount of software and the amount of coding and the amount of, late nights to get something so simple on the front end. You really appreciate what someone's gone through on the back end. That's a skill, right?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a full year to learn what a rotor stator was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was making videos for a whole year on YouTube without understanding.
No, and I've learned some new words in the last 2 years as well, which, some of them profanities, but but yeah. So people walk in, they say it's so simple, and I say genuinely, this is the hardest thing I have ever done. When you just can't solve that one thing, which sorts people out, right? So that's why some people give up, or they fail, or they don't have the right industry contacts to source the answers, and then the knowledge to convert the answers into a solution to the problem. So very fortunate. I've had that past experience, and I can attract the right people now to sort of really sort of push that along.
Yeah, I think most people who have taken any engineering classes know nothing usually works perfectly the first try, especially if you built it yourself. So the trial and error is like a rite of passage for the tech world.
Yeah, and it's good fun. But then, and you do get to a point where you've had enough of it. You're like, version 10 of this thing, I can't, and it's still not working. I remember Volker did say to me once, I said, oh, you're just printing out of a pipe. And he goes, that's version 12 of that pipe. Yeah. And I never forget that. And then I think we're on about version 10, Yeah, just to get that fluidity correct, and the back pressures and the lack of air bubbles forming, and and now we're working on a 2-part head for the robot. And and there's challenges in that. Why is everyone else's 2-part head so expensive? Why did it take them 2 years to develop it? And unless you're doing that, you understand now why it does. So there's a lot involved. Yeah.
Do you feel the $150,000 extruder head is a reasonable price for just the little tip of the?
Visually, no. But there's obviously some smarts behind it. But look, whether we buy one off Volker or someone else, or we continue the development on our own, I've got very close with version 1. So, but then it also comes down to, and I never used to be this way. I used to do everything myself, and which say sometimes hinders your progress. But if you can afford it, is it easier just to buy it for that small component and move on, and then start creating products 6 months before you normally would? Probably, maybe. So I'm undecided. I can probably answer that question for you in another 6 months' time.
I mean, you're still in the R&D phase. Like when Tesla was where you're at, they were using a Lotus Elise, and they just stripped it out. So
correct.
There's no shame in that.
No. So so maybe. I'm unsure. I may purchase one, but I'm probably leaning more towards I will continue the development on our own. So therefore, we own the IP, and we own the process, I suppose.
I hope it's not boring for you to discuss, but I'm curious how you selected the board for your old company.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah. So it was always a self-funded company, which again, we grew organically. We were growing very fast, probably 20% a year, 25% a year in the early days. But obviously, as your revenue streams increase, it's harder to grow at that percentage. So I did start to look around. I didn't need the money, but I wanted the experience. So I started to look around for private equity funding, I suppose. And the funding's always nice. I paid off the loan for my factory that I built. so yes, it had an upside in that. But then I wanted the experience as well. I wanted someone with that big end of town. How do I go from, the size of a grape to the size of a watermelon, and do it very quickly, because I don't want to wait. I don't want this to be a 20-year venture. I want this to happen in 5 years. So I interviewed quite a lot of private equity guys, and I ended up going for an independent guy that used to work in the big end of town, And he sort of scaled back to having his own small fund, and he took on, say, 3 or 4 smaller, medium-sized companies to sort of help them expand. So that comes with positives and negatives again. Now, even though I'm still way in excess the majority shareholder, you've still got other people, that you're consulting over decisions. And whether you can ultimately override that decision, still you want a Knights of the Round Table sort of thing. You want everyone to be on the same page. So that was one of the board members. I had a long-time employee who'd been there for more than 10 years at that stage. So he came on as a board member as well. Obviously very invested in the company, very, very knowledgeable, knowledge that you can't afford to lose, or would have been very hard to replace at that stage. And then we shopped around for a CEO, someone that had been in the large end of town. But then it's hard to find someone. I didn't want to become a corporate juggernaut either, or corporate entity that can't make decisions, that can't do anything because they're constrained with the corporate hierarchy. So we eventually found that person, and we've had our ups and downs, and we have board meetings now once a month, and everyone, and we've also we put on a professional, as opposed to just an accounts department, with talented people, but not a CFO. So we put on a CFO as well. So it's hard to do that and spend that money, I suppose, waiting for the investment to then return, because you're employing people that are used to earning lots and lots of money, right? And to attract that talent, you've got to pay that money. And there's obviously a hibernation period there where you're paying that money, and you're waiting for the actions that we decide as an overall business to grow, to come back. So they were challenging times. Like to set up 4 warehouses, to staff those warehouses up. Each one's got sales guys, factory guys, warehousing, $1 million worth of stock, $20,000 or $50,000 worth of forklifts and things, and $100,000 worth of racking. So there's hard decisions, right? But that's where, if you've got someone that's more used to that, and that's when it comes back to, sure, I can do the numbers, I can do the spreadsheets, and I can go, yeah, this probably does work. But you need that sort of push from somebody else that then goes, no, I've done this before, we can see this happening, let's do it, and this is what we're going to do. And it is almost like having a personal trainer, someone behind you, just constantly pushing. Mm-hmm. But we still have our arguments and we have our disagreements, and I kicked a hole in the boardroom wall a couple of months ago, and that's not me, right? So to get me to that point, but is everyone there for the right reason? Sure. Does everyone want the same thing? Sure. But it just shows everyone's got their line in the sand as well. But fight. I want them to fight. I even say that to the guys in the factory. I know every single person's name. I know what their wives are called. I know what they do on a weekend. And I have lunch with them a couple of times a week. And that's where I would say some of the guys that then come from this industry, they don't. I mean, I started on the factory floor, right? I know what it's like. I don't have an us and them culture. And even though some people don't mentally, but they still won't. At the Christmas party, I'm going to sit with the guys. I sit with these. I sit with you guys all week. I don't want to look at you at a Christmas party. I'll go and talk to the guys on the factory floor. So I think you need that good spread of. You need to be, and it has to be genuine as well. And it genuinely is. I really want to know what their name is when a new guy starts. I'll make sure I go out there, I introduce myself, and I write his name on my hand, so I don't forget it. So I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's probably the happiest way to run a business, when you can integrate like almost a family feel. At some point, if you have 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees, how many names can you know? It's tricky.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is. But and even at that point, I don't think it's remembering names. It's remembering the person, or their faith, sure, what they do. It's they work on the. Like Tesla, he works on the motor line. He works on the, and I think you can be very good at remembering that stuff, and because that's important to them. It's important to me, but it's even more important to them. But they're not just a number.
Leading from the trenches.
Absolutely. Jeez. Do you know what? I'll give you a good analogy here. Someone probably 10 years ago, I had an old school sales manager, and he'd been with me since the start, and it was time for him to move on, retire, and we had a factory foreman who was very talented, but he was prickly, right? You know, and I heard the guys saying once downstairs, they go, "Oh, just piss Greg off in the morning and he'll leave you alone all day." You know, and that was their mentality. And I was like, no way. So I spent a week on the factory floor, and then we had a chat with him up in the office. My old school sales manager, who'd employed thousands of people over his years, he goes, "Listen, Greg, I'm going to tell you something." You know, he goes, "You're in the trenches in World War One." He goes, "You blow the whistle," and he goes, "You run. You got to look behind yourself." He goes, "This guy blows the whistle. He's going to run, and he doesn't have to look behind himself because he knows everyone's following." And I've never forgot that, and it means a lot to the guys. No one's better than them. Everyone's a really important part in the wheel, in the cogs. You know, it can't operate without anybody. So I think that's really important. You know, you can't just, and that's what goes back to what I said. I don't like that corporate juggernaut where you are literally just a number, doing your job, punching out the figures.
To bring it back to, since we're on a string of Tesla analogies, I know Elon borrowed some SpaceX employees to design the Model 3, and they did it in like some crazy short amount of time.
Sure.
But would you ever lean on the talent that you've worked so hard to acquire, your CFO and your other team members, in some roles in your 3D printed construction? You could bill out hours or something.
I don't think so from that point of view. Not from a governance point of view, or like a CFO, CEO sort of point of view. I'll take that on myself at the moment. I do have a financial controller here at Contour now, but she's a bit multi-talented, obviously, or multitasked. She's answering the phones, she's doing the admin, yeah, she's doing all the finances and the R&D, you know, proposals for the government to get money back off them. But then today, you know, she's also, because we don't have a site crew and I've got all the engineers out on site, she's out there on site with her laptop, working from site, cooking them dinner, or cooking them lunch. You know?
Nice.
Yeah. So, but what the talent I did borrow from the other business, I had a very good machine builder and control system guy. So he was all integrated. Before he came on board at Modular 5 years ago, it was either me doing that, you know, then I'm like, oh, I haven't got time to fix a machine. You know, but then I had to have time, right? Because we stopped production. So, we get a consultant in, you know, an electrical guy, and you plug in, and it'll find him taking 3 hours because he didn't know the machine or the process, you know. So anyway, so I employed this guy within Modular Walls 5 years ago, maybe, and we've built a lot of machines there. In the interim, we've automated a lot of stuff. We do all our own control systems and wiring and cabinets. So then he'd had enough of the day-to-day there as well. And it was probably above him now that everything's working, just doing the maintenance. So we did employ a maintenance guy, you know, and a maintenance engineer, where his job is just doing minor repairs, minor things, minor fixes and maintenance. So then I did bring that guy across to Contour 3D. So yes, I did lean on that talent, absolutely.
So the CNC skills required for cabinetry transfer over?
Oh, definitely. Yep. No, yeah. Well, it was obviously, yeah. There's differences there, but there's enough knowledge there to work it out. And I hate reading, right? I read because I have to, not because I want to. But I have read more manuals on CNC machines and studies and things than I ever want to read in my life ever again.
You hear a lot of engineering-minded people saying that they hate reading. It's interesting.
I think you're just done with it, you know? And as you get older, your eyes aren't so good anymore, even with glasses. You know? I think I even had my PA read something to me one day because I was just absolutely cooked from reading.
It says you went to Menai High School. You skipped college?
I did. I went to Menai High School. Yep. So I did that. I did all my stuff sort of post that, machine building and fabrication and engineering. I don't know why. I couldn't wait to get out of school at that point.
You obviously didn't need it. You have a successful business who you go to college to learn how to make money, have a job. You got that.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. I've got kids of high school age now, though, but I'm pushing them to go to university or to college. You know, but did I need that? No. I think if I had to give you another analogy, I'm more Rocky Balboa than Apollo Creed. You know, but I'm a street fighter. But yeah, I've done very well in that regard. But and with time and with experience, some of the experience you don't want, right? But it's all experience and it builds who you are. I think I've got a very, I don't know, I'm quite well rounded nowadays, and that's why I built Modular to that point where I handed it over, and I'll build Contour to the point before I sort of hand that over to a CEO or somebody else, because I want my flavour in the place. I don't want it corporate. I don't want it someone else's. I want it to be my flavour, and that's going back to what you said about Modular. Probably why I kicked a hole in the boardroom wall was it wasn't my flavour. You know what I mean? It's just I believe people are people, and you just gotta. It doesn't matter who they are. You just got to talk to everyone the same way, and you can do your deals and your things. But I try to do everything with transparency, because if someone then thinks you're keeping something from them, then it just doesn't bode well for you. And if I am keeping something from someone, I'll generally say I can't tell you. I'm not in a position to tell you at the moment. But at least there's no whispers and there's no sort of rumors, and I hate that stuff.
Sure. It's not productive.
No.
So after high school, what was the first job you took? Or did you just start your own business immediately?
No, yeah. So I was into cars, and I used to race cars and open wheelers and
cool.
So I was a mechanic straight out of school. So I did 4 years of mechanic, got my mechanic ticket degree, kept racing, and then I went to Europe for 5 years to work, and I was doing different things. I was working in France for 4 of those years, doing holiday repping, believe it or not. So I used to run holiday resorts, different ones throughout France for an English company. So at any one time during the summer season, we could have 500 people within our control on site. So at the age of 22, I had 15 staff under my control on a holiday resort, and that was. No one was there to help you, fly by the seat of your pants again, and you had to work it out. So I think that gave me, I've never thought about that before actually, but probably looking back, that does make you very well-rounded, because you were living on site, you had to, 24 hours a day, you were responsible. And then when customers had issues, they had injuries, you'd have to take them to the hospital and translate, you'd have to go to the police station, you just have to work it out, because head office was in the UK, you were in France. And then after that, so in between that time, I used to come back for 3 months of the year when the holiday season wasn't operating in Europe. Then I did engineering. I used to work for my dad building. My dad does composite roofing, insulated roofing. So I used to work for him building production lines. In those 3 months, I could just turn up. I could work for 3 months and then go back overseas and continue my holiday repping. So I continued with that, and then when I'd come back, I thought, right, I'm getting too old for this, this traveling around Europe and not having a fixed abode as such. I did come back to Australia, and I started Modular Walls. Yeah,
and how long ago was that?
I started another company first, actually, which ran for a year.
Okay.
I was renovating houses and just flipping them, I suppose. So I was doing everything from the plumbing to the wiring to the things, sort of trying to make as much money as I can doing it myself. Framing, roofing, plastering. So, and then I started. That's how I started Modular Wall. So one of the final houses I was renovating, the council would not let me construct a masonry wall at the front of the house because there was underground drainage services running there. So I built the first modular wall out of composite panels, put it out the front, got around the council approvals because it was modular, it was removable. And I had a lot of people sort of knocking on the door going, wow, what's that? That's really cool. Can you make me one? Then I went on a show called The New Inventors with that particular product, and then TV again. I got loads of traction. So I went from a single person operating the factory on my own, making the modular walls, to, say, 80 people today and sort of 4 warehouses and a production facility. So,
what a classic story. The municipality gets in your way, you innovate around it, and then people start banging down the door to get the product. It's great.
Yeah, it was good. So, yeah, and again, I'm stumbling over my words to even think how that process actually, how it went from that one person up to where it is today. But I think it is just that never give up, never, and I only said to my kids the other night, because I was so tired at one point, this week, and I was so tired. I said, listen, you need to sleep. I got to a point with modular where we were that busy and I had to fix machinery on a night time. I was that tired. I remember driving through a red light, on the way home, just driving. So there is no substitute, unfortunately, for maybe there is, and maybe I'm the idiot, but there's no substitute for hard work.
So what age are your kids now?
I have two 12-year-old twins. I had to think then, and a 13-year-old daughter. So the twins.
So you're not really thinking about college yet, seriously, but
no.
If just to imagine, I guess, for a minute, what would they need to convince you of to not go to school?
The twins go to high school next year. The other one's in, obviously 14 next year.
Sorry, not high. Of course, they're going to go to high school and graduate high school. To not go to university after that.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose a business plan. Yep, and one that they can convince me on, and one that they can be absolutely drilled on, and still come up with the answers. Even if they're not the right answers, you have to have an answer. And I encourage people to do that here. Drill me. I don't want to be right. If there's an avenue where I'm wrong, that's an avenue for improvement, right? So it's probably the same with the kids. I want them to really knuckle down, work hard, but work smart and think about it. And I've offered them to help them with a small business in the interim, and I'll fund that, obviously. Obviously I want them to make money, and I don't care if they don't make money. Sometimes it might be better if they fail and learn a lesson. But I want them to do something before that point of college as well. I want them to have a little side business. I want them to, my son wants to get vending machines, but then it'll be up to him to go around to the factories, and I want him to understand the business case behind a vending machine. What is your return? How many Mars bars a day do you have to sell? And I do try to teach them that stuff. And I wouldn't say my dad didn't teach me that, because maybe he did. And maybe I just didn't realize it, because my dad's a very successful business person.
You picked it up somewhere.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I must have along the way, but I'm really got a conscious effort now to sit my kids down and really have an hour a week and teach them that stuff, and make them watch a share trading video that they don't want to watch, but it just... because obviously you want to, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I want to know my kids are going to succeed or have the right platform to succeed in life. And it's that don't worry about what anyone else tells you, and I suppose I've never worried about what anyone, even if someone is perceived as smarter than you, what is smarter? It's, I don't know. They're the guys that don't get there. They're the guys that'll give up. You know what I mean? I don't know, and that's not the right thing, and that doesn't go for everybody, and I shouldn't say that, but it's that I just want them to be that attitude. I don't care if you're in the room with the Prime Minister, the President, or the janitor, it's, you have the same conversation. You take the same, and it does take you a lot of time to realise if you shut your mouth, you learn more, obviously you don't want to be in front of someone that will just talk at you for hours and hours and hours on end and you get nowhere, but, listen to what people have to say. And even if you listen to 100 people and you take one thing out of that improves what you do, then I tend to do that nowadays. So I tend to have more that mentality where I'll stop and listen, as opposed to, no, I know better, get out of my way, I'm going to do it myself.
Well, don't do that too much today, because I'm trying to get you to talk for a podcast.
Oh, no, that's okay. No,
you're doing great. You're making my job easy today.
No, you've given me so much, so that's what I want to give back. So.
Yeah, so you talked about your business, and I guess another question: do you give your kids like an allowance or something, like chores or like simple stuff like that?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they've got one of these kiddie credit cards nowadays, so you've got to load money onto it. So,
oh wow!
So every time, so they can go on their phones and Apple Pay and all the rest of it. So, but that's we do load money onto that, so they get whatever $10 a week, just an allowance to buy their own clothes nowadays or whatever. But then they can also make additional money by emptying the dishwasher, putting the garbage out, and all the little jobs. And if they want money now, if somebody wants to spend $20 on robo dollars or whatever they call them on these stupid games, they've got to earn that, right? So I had a job at 13 pulling and selling newspapers on a Sunday morning for 4 hours. So I certainly had to go down that road, had to push. So I want them to have the same mentality, because it's easy to give kids money when you've got enough disposable income. It's easy just to give them the money, and it's too easy to do that. But I don't want them to have that mentality. I want them to grow up with the value of money, and that's why I want them to have their own business from a young age. Not something they'd continue on with potentially, but I said, I will help you. I'll give my time, to help you do that.
And did you grow up with chores?
Yep. Looking back, I certainly did. I put the garbage out every single week. I washed the cars. That was my job. 2 cars a week. And I think I used to get $50 a week, which is probably a lot of money back in the 90s, right? So I did. Yeah, I did.
So was Karate Kid very relatable for you when you saw wax on, wax off?
Yeah, I got very good at washing cars. Very good at washing cars.
He taught you how to kick holes in boardrooms or something?
Yeah. That was the one and only time. I can't say the only time because I'm still here, right?
I'm sure there's lots of fun boardroom times ahead, but
but that's when I've worked with some very intelligent people. But what makes them what makes them, and I say this to them because they can watch this podcast, what makes their point of view any more better, that's the wrong word. What makes their point of view...
It sounds like they challenge you, and that's very healthy.
Yeah, challenge me, but it gets to the point where, I can't remember why I kicked the hole. I think it came down to an irrational conversation, and you get to the point where you can't negotiate with a terrorist. He's got to shoot him in the head. So I think that's the point it sort of got to in that one. But no, I don't want anyone to not be able to approach me either. And I say that to the guys at work. My door is always open. If you feel that you need to see me, then it's obviously important to you. Then you can come and tell me. That's always important to me. And I hope my kids are the same. You tell me the truth and you're not in trouble. You don't tell me the truth and you lie to me, and that's when you're in trouble.
I had a boss who said that at the Federal Reserve, he was like this older guy in his 60s, all white hair, and I went into his office like one time, took advantage of the policy. I was like shaking. It's almost scarier when they say they have an open door policy. I don't know why.
Yeah. And how did that go for you?
I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast, but it was really stupid of me. At the time, I got my first 3D printer. I was interested in 3D printed construction.
Sure.
And I saw articles that you could 3D print a weapon. So every day when we went into the job, it was like an internship I got through my school. We would go through metal detectors, and the head of my department, we were doing construction projects, he was also the head of the security department. So all these cops with like serious weapons, there's $6 billion cash in the basement of the building. So I go into his office and I say, listen, I have a 3D printer and I could print you-know-what at home and bring it in piece by piece over a week or two, and it would be a serious security threat for the building. So you guys should seriously consider this, look into it, maybe print one and shoot it in the range you guys have downstairs.
Yeah.
He didn't let me test a printed one in the range, but they let me do a little one-page report to their police squad, and nothing ever came of it. I think he thought I was a little crazy.
So if I was that guy, I would have said, actually, if I was you, I would have just walked in his office and put one on the desk. And this is where we had the Prime Minister of our country visiting our manufacturing facility. He's a local member, and he does a lot of newscasting, obviously. So he wanted to broadcast from a manufacturing facility. So I know him, so he rang up. He said, "Can I come down?" I said, "Sure." So then this was during COVID, when with all the check-ins and things, and you had the QR codes. So I said to my graphic girl, we did a little QR code on an A4. I said, if he's got a check-in, right? We don't make the Prime Minister check in. We put the QR code for Rick Astley. Never going to go up, never going to. So I was going to rickroll the Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's good.
But that's my flavour, right? Where if I said that to my CEO or the board, oh my God, they would have had a conniption, right? You can't do that. You can't. Oh, I know the guy. It's good fun, right?
Yeah. So at this stage, what does Contour 3D need the most to grow?
Probably more people at the moment. I'd say we are constructing the next major project we have for the new machine, the new gantry that we've almost completed, is we're building a 3-bedroom, single-story house in Victoria for Simmons Homes, who are one of Australia's largest sort of home builders. So I think that will be then a proof of concept for the new machine. Then I really want to scale up in regards to, say, the software engineers, more boots on the ground in regards to fabricators, engineers that can really then drive the scale, and that's where I'll put my sort of efforts into it. Then, what do we have to do? What is the business model? What is the business plan to scale? And sometimes without obviously there's a construction market there, there's a home building market. But is it just a buzz at the moment? Will the buzz taper off if we invest $30, $40, $50 million into scaling? Is that the right decision? And then sometimes you can't make that decision, accurately because it's all pie in the sky stuff, right? Will the market take this up? You can do small scale testing, which we have, and small scale market penetration, and surveys and that type of thing. But I've got to really make that decision and get the right people on board, probably some equity funding, some VC funding, to really sort of scale. I don't want to be a one-off builder. I really want to, if we're going to do this, I want to really take this and dominate the country, and for the good as well. Homelessness is one of my passions. And I know there's a lot of talk about 3D printing, solving some affordability crisis and social housing. And there's lots of social housing that needs to be built in Australia. The government are on board with that. I fortunately know some of the right people. So that won't be a difficult market. But I think it's more speed than cost. And it goes back to back to my thing I said originally, well, how are we going to make money out of this? But I really do want to, if I can leave my mark, and for my kids, how do we help solve some affordability crisis? And whether that's 3D printing, that's what I'm pushing towards, obviously, and I hope to drive those costs down in efficiencies and material to make that a reality. I really do. Whether that's achievable, I don't want to come on the podcast, or on the internet like a lot of other people and go, we're going to do this, we're going to cut housing costs by 70%, we're going to that's nirvana, right? Everyone, let's do that. If you can do it, let's do it. But what is the plan to do that? Is that through materials, or through labour, is it through efficiencies, or is it a combination of everything? Hopefully it's a combination of everything, or more robotics, or more, how do we get 2 people on site to cut that labour component down and provide the efficiencies? And that goes into me then employing some very intelligent people that are smarter than me, to put more robotics into the systems, to automate more of the systems, to have look ahead 3D cameras that are scanning where they're going to be correcting the machine and the pump, and the mortar or the geopolymer or whatever that solution ends up being eventually.
So the first home you did, I would imagine with all the filming and everything, you don't want to leave too much up to the inspector's whim. Were you able to print in an area that doesn't require permits?
No. This was on national television, and it was a permitted building. Yep.
Wow.
I mean, it was. Yeah. So it was. What it was. They had their main house, and this was considered. They were calling it a pool cabana, which was it was 70 square meters. It was a house. It was a mini house. It had a kitchen, bathroom, living, dining, all the rest of it. But no, it still had. They are selling those houses afterwards, so every single structure on that had to be permitted. Was
that challenging?
Slightly, but then we overcame it with an engineering solution. We core filled where we didn't have to core fill some of the walls. They didn't actually want the wall sections core filled, but to get over it, we did core fill columns in certain locations. Then that seemed to satisfy their requirements, and then it got signed off, and it was all fine. We're doing the same on the print at the moment, which is down the road, which the guys are packing up on today. That is a habitable dwelling that has to be permitted. So I spoke to the certified. So we had that engineered. I gave that to the certifier. It went through the process, the governance, And I spoke to the certifier yesterday, so he's coming out next week to do a further inspection, and that will be a permitted building as well.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah.
It's really a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. I don't want to build anything that, I mean, this would have been, we couldn't have done it, right? We couldn't have done it, particularly on national television, unless they were going to demolish it afterwards because they had to sell it. So it had to be done. And that's part of that mantra of, I suppose, people are just people. If you get to the right people, you get to the right person, and you can explain your case and your diligence, I suppose. Like, we are super diligent, you know what I mean? And you've got the right engineers on the board, and I've had a structural engineer on board from the very beginning as well. A very sort of forward-thinking, sort of you'll find a solution sort of guy. So you need the right people. You need to have then their confidence, right? I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but like the US, the standards I don't feel will catch up, or I'm told won't catch up here for another 18 months as a minimum. So in the meantime, we've just got to get those independent evaluations of the structures, which is part of the program.
Yeah, that gives you a good amount of time to keep working on the printer and implement the changes you want to do, build the 3 new systems.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and I'm sure I've been approached by a few people to sort of, where it's appropriate, to give some input into those standards discussions. Yeah, I'm very happy to do that.
Yeah, I saw they just released ISO ASTM 52939, which is like qualification principles for printed concrete.
Yep.
Now we're really getting into the weeds here, but
yep. Yeah, no, but that's true. The people that hold the knowledge at the moment, yeah, I suppose, yeah, a builder's got a license, a carpenter's got a license. When you get concrete poured out of a truck, you've got to take a test sample. But yeah, the people that hold the knowledge at the moment within the 3D sector don't have that. It's the people, right? So I can't hand a machine to someone and then know without training that they can print that house effectively, I suppose. So yeah, so that's where you're right. There's probably got to be a qualification standard and a this and a training and it can't be left up to a single person on site. But
yeah, I'm sure that's a big factor in your decision making on the business model you decide, having to train people or operating printers yourself. Training is tough and customer service is tough.
Absolutely it is. Yep, absolutely. Yep, and that goes back to the tech being very simple again, hopefully, in the construction of a printer being very simple in the methodology. So we've got to put that much back-end work and software into it to make it so simple that are intelligent. I mean, builders are builders. They build buildings, right? They got a level of intelligence there that they can operate the technology side of things as well. They'll be very good on the reinforcement side of things, on the concrete side of things. But how do you make that tech so simple, that it's bulletproof, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I saw a cool project in California where they had a general union labor doing pretty much all of the tasks, like placing the plumbing and stuff, electrical lentils on top of. Yep. So if you can replace expensive subcontractors with untrained labor, where you have your trained print operator and then a few people who just have a punch list of when to place the horizontal reinforcement or those things, that seems like terrific.
No, and that's absolutely on our radar. So I just want to automate as much as possible, and even placement of reinforcement. Or we've got some other ideas that doesn't involve physical horizontal reinforcement, which we can build into the machine in the next version of tech. So we'll get there. But no, I don't just want to build a dumb printer either. I want to really stretch the envelope of what can be done and continue to stretch it. Is Nirvana. Whoever reached Nirvana, you should never reach Nirvana, right? It's a continual journey. It's got to keep pushing as tech evolves.
If you can press a button and a house appears, and nobody has to be there or look at it or touch anything, I'll be in Nirvana.
Yeah, yeah. Possibly. Yeah. No, true. No, but that's where people come on site and they go, "Oh, what do you do? How complex it is?" Nothing. You just press the green button, and that's ideal. That's all you want to do.
Find a tenant.
Exactly. Yep. So no, look, it's an exciting space, and I think it's really made me given me a new energy in a business sense. I really want to, and it's not about, I mean, every business has to make money, right? We want to make lots of money, but I really want to push the boundaries of technology and feel uncomfortable when I come into work on a daily basis. I don't want to sit behind a desk and count numbers, as I say. I want to feel uncomfortable, that we're not there, but we're striving to, it's version 2. You've got to be there with a version because you've got to keep doing it. You've got to keep, but yeah, I don't want to, that's the bit that excites me, I suppose, to keep pushing, find a solution. But then and I say to the guys, what does a printer look like in 10 years' time? And yes, the technology might not be there to make that, to envisage that yet, but how do we get there? How do we get there sooner? How do we get there faster? I don't want a 10-year plan, that bores the shit out of me, I want a 12-month plan, a rolling 12-month plan that we keep pushing, and we keep developing, we keep innovating. As long as then you've got a back end that can sustain that, right? You can't be a perpetual innovator that's not making money on the front end, because that doesn't work either. So it's
Amazon seems to be doing that with their negative PE ratio and.
Yep. Okay. Yep. No. So no. You got to make money. You got to keep striving forwards. And you got to keep innovating, I think, to stay ahead.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Is there anything we didn't cover?
Let me have a look. I did put a few bullet points down. I don't know.
Great.
Yes, I'll tell you some things. Look, as part of the 3D business model, and I won't call it a 3D concrete or mortar business model, I am looking to purchase a thermoplastic printing system as well. Because as part of an overall 3D business, I would like to incorporate some thermoplastics within that. And there are companies in Australia that are developing, or that by the end of this year they will have a machine that can generate or manufacture the 3D pellets here in Australia, so we're not having to import that. And you can get almost 100% recycled components within this 3D pellet, PETGs and so forth, ABSs. But there's a very good market, I feel, in that as well. And it's not so much just the market. I think it is partially the tech as well. There's a little bit of crossover in the tech between the concrete and the thermoplastics, but there's also things that we can incorporate into the house developments, with the thermoplastic abilities as well. And if we're using recycled thermoplastics, where we're maybe printing some reinforcement, or we're doing things, or we're printing elements to support the slab, so we can physically print the slab at the same time. So there's a lot of different things that I feel that we could do with the thermoplastic capability, which is quite exciting again. And obviously there's a lot of, outside of the home construction market, there is a lot of applications for councils and governments for recycled 3D printed plastic. So that is something that I'm actively looking into at the moment, which as an overall 3D business, which I think we will proceed with. And then you would have, if you've had a look at our website, or one of the projects we are taking on, also, I did purchase with a family member of mine, my sister, 122,000 square metres in a regional town in New South Wales, which is called Dubbo. It houses the largest zoo, I think, in one of the largest zoos in Australia. Wow. Got a few other tourist attractions. It's one of those towns which was sort of built in the 80s, forgotten about, and that's having a bit of a resurgence, particularly with COVID. People are not travelling overseas as much, they're travelling interstate. So I've got 122,000 square metres of land. It is zoned for a holiday park, and it is opposite the zoo. It's down the road from the observatory, down the road from the winery, so the location is perfect. So we're having a master plan drawn up at the moment, which will incorporate, I don't want a caravan park, I don't want tents, there's enough of an industry in Dubbo to support cabins. So I want to do some really cool, funky 3D printed cabins. So maybe 100, 200 cabins, for a 3D printed holiday park. So we're probably starting the civil works on that next year, which is the site drainage and other elements. And then we will move into the construction phase probably in 2024. And hence the reason as well, I think a gantry system, for what I want to print, a double-story cabin, a beehive or something, or see if we can come up with something different, pods. I don't think a gantry-style system is the best, to facilitate that type of construction. I want 20 little mobile machines running around site, just printing 200 of these cabins.
Interesting. Moving the printer a couple times for each cabin and then moving on to the next one.
Yeah, well, I've developed the cabins. I don't think will even need to be. The printer will not need to be moved. I mean, if I do them in a 6 metre, 7 metre radius, and the printer is facilitating that, then we just park the printer in the middle.
Circular. Okay.
Correct. Print the cabins, and off we go.
Nice.
So that's another inspiration, I suppose, or motivation is the right word. To develop the mobile machine and the smaller size printer.
It has huge benefits in the setup and takedown time compared to the gantry system, leveling it in, getting it all rigid.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what you do. We've worked very hard to get the gantry down to a 4-hour assembly time on site. So it'll be when we print this first home for Simmons Homes, which is the 3-bedroom single story. It'll be interesting to see if we've sort of achieved our outcome and what we thought would happen.
Yeah, and if not, you hit the drawing boards and do it again.
That's right.
It seems like you're having fun, which is an important part, probably.
I am, but I haven't had fun. I mean, still love coming to Modular and come to work, but I haven't had fun. I haven't been challenged for a long time, and that's, some people go to work to hibernate. I go to work to fight the good fight and to be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully there's a day that I can buy an island and disappear, but I don't know. That's not today.
It's fair enough. Islands have been out for a little while. It might be another 5 or 10 years before islands are cool again.
That's right. Time to pick up a bargain then.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool. And anything you want to talk about, like living in Australia? Did you get put in jail or anything?
No, not yet. Yeah, no. I mean, look, I've travelled around the world. I love the States. I love Europe. But I do like Australia, even though from its remoteness, there is a hell of a lot of opportunity here, and we've got a very large landmass compared to the population. So there's a lot of opportunity. Australians seem to have a good uptake for new technology. So it's good to be supported in that regard. And obviously we've got a very good climate, similar to probably California, I imagine, where it is conducive to print. If we want to print outdoors, we can print outdoors almost all year round. In summer, what's our maximum temperatures is probably the high 30 degrees Celsius. And yeah, sure, it snows in the mountains in winters, but typically the days are 15, 16 degrees Celsius as the coldest. So look, we've got the perfect climate, so why not capitalize on that?
Did your region go on like long-term lockdowns and stuff?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as the rest of the world. The government were a little bit looser on that element. But yeah, we did get locked down for weeks at a time, I suppose, where you could only go to the doctors, the usual, go shopping and so forth, or exercise. So that was a very new experience for me. But we, fortunately, being a manufacturing business for modular walls, we didn't get locked down because we were supporting the building industry, so we were considered a critical industry. So we all had to check in. We all had to wear masks. We couldn't have more than 3. We had to separate.
That sounds just like the American rules in most states.
Sure.
I don't know why I heard so many horror stories, about Australia.
No, we were fine. And now
that's good to hear.
Now it's just self-managed, like you guys. There's no rules. You just got to self-manage. Yep.
Speaking of, I guess, on the topic of Australia, one of my all-time favorite heroes is Steve Irwin.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah, that was a sad story. I remember where I was. It was a certain life events, I suppose. I was in a taxi going to the airport when I heard on the radio that Steve Irwin had died. Yeah, which is pretty sad. I mean, he was a pretty larger than life sort of character.
Yeah, it was.
No, that was really sad. But it's nice. He's, we see a lot of his kids. I think you see he's one of his daughters. You see his kids a bit on Jimmy Fallon and all these sort of late shows. I've seen them, but they seem to be doing well. And they've got their own sort of lives and industries, and they trade.
Yeah, I see them on Twitter all the time. They're always at a zoo. It's cool.
Yeah, cool. No, and they're good. I mean, they're eco warriors. They're trying to do the right thing for the planet. So no, good on them. Yeah. And it seems they're succeeding. I think she just got married. Actually, I saw Bindio and.
Yeah, that broke my heart a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they seem like good people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if anybody's listening that wants to work at Contour 3D, they're excited about what you're doing, they can apply at your website at the link in the description. And yeah, it was great talking to you. Really insightful and getting insight about your old business and the journey of how you got to where you are today. Is there anything else we can talk about?
Nothing that comes to mind immediately. No, but if you want to call back at any point, feel free.
Yeah, cool. I certainly will. Next time you guys do a big project, and if you have footage from the other stuff, we could do some other videos. This has been awesome, man. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome. No, I really appreciate what you've done. So, thanks, Jarrett.